The best use of the word pig is by a guy that we know at the track, and his name is Omar. He is a long shot player. He's constantly extolling his horses to continue running by yelling, "Stay with it, you pig! Stay there, you pig!" I mean, where you're being demeaning. It's almost like you rooting for Florida State, Lubie. Where you're just absolutely horrified at the possibilities of how badly your team is going to fade, even when they're well in command of the game. And that's one use of it. But then at the same time, you'll have guys cursing a horse in the very same race, screaming, "Don't die, you pig!" Even at a strip club, you don't hear the word pig employed as often as you do at the track. And the various uses of it, I think, are kind of fascinating. I'm surprised some English language professor hasn't studied track vernacular.
I just love that people. I've heard you guys talk about, oh, that fucking pig, but I haven't heard people using it to root on a horse that hasn't lost.
Yeah.
You haven't lost?
Keep going, you pig.
Why is it a pig before it loses? What if it wins by like 3 lengths?
Because the horse was a pig, or it wouldn't be a long shot. Very, very creative use of the word pig, and part of the racetrack vernacular. I don't know why it isn't a course offered in Florida schools.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
It's kind of like the Jewish word shalom, right? Hebrew word shalom. Could mean anything. Could mean hello, goodbye. You don't know if the pig is running well, fading at the back of the pack, dead last all the way around. You pig! It is true. When we were doing those shows at Porky's, appropriately enough, the strip club in Hialeah, we didn't hear the word pig used as frequently as you do if you're just watching the stretch run of a Saratoga race with a bunch of guys that happen to be at the same simulcasting facility that I am on a Saturday. You pig! It's incredible. Imagine if you were using terms like that on a ladies' night.
Oh,
a couple of hot-looking babes walk in, you start screaming, "Hey, how you doing, you pig?" Wouldn't be appropriate unless you were Donald Trump, which that's his standard pickup line, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, you pig? All right. Next thing you know, they're in bed, right? Incredible. All the news people have a little CNN on here because tracking this Idalia, the hurricane that's out there in the Gulf Coast. Interesting, and Ron DeSantis has returned to Florida. He's actually gotten off the stomping there, stooping, or whatever he's doing. What do you do? Do you stoop for votes? No. He's probably stooping somebody to stay in the race there. But nonetheless, he's back in Florida because there's wild concern now about Idalia hitting the west coast of Florida. We're okay over here on the east coast. And I don't care. You could have as many hurricanes threatening and formulating and tracking them and the cone of death and all of that stuff. They're still, and I don't know that I feel good about this. I mean, from a moral standpoint, it feels very undignified. We naturally have concern. We don't want to see, things being wiped out, entire towns, people dying, losing their homes, insurance rates skyrocketing as a result of something that happened. But still, it's a great relief, isn't it, that it's not coming here, Lubie? That's your immediate reaction is, whew, man, we're off the fucking hook.
Yes, I'd rather not come here, but I also do have a lot of family in that area. So,
but who else is that selfless, though? I mean, is there anybody that's not selfless that your immediate thought is, whew, thank God it ain't me?
That's selfish. I don't think that's selfless.
Oh, right, exactly. Nobody thinks that way. Thank God it ain't me.
Thank God it ain't me. I think the definition
is a common one. Right.
That's called worrying about yourself.
I mean, look, no one says, "Hey, you know what? I wish that was coming here instead of."
No. I'd rather go.
Like, would you step in front of a car? I want to believe that I would step in front of a car if I was in the street and I was walking my dog. And
random, or for like your wife? I would for surely. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I would do it for a fucking stranger. I will not.
Skippy and Holly, yeah, I probably would. I don't know. Mustang, my wife.
I've done it.
Whoa, I can't believe you got hit by the car. No,
No,
you've done it? You've jumped in front of a car?
when the cars are coming, I will push her out and put myself in the middle of the road. So if something happens, it's going to hit me.
Wait a minute. I think you're shoving her in the direction of the car, no?
No, I will push her off the road.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
I've done it one time where it got real close. I'm like, she got mad at me. She's like, why'd you shove me? I'm like, because the car almost hit you.
That's the beauty, too, when you do something as noble as that, as selfless as that, and then you still, have somebody looking at you like you're an asshole. It's incredible. Hey, you pushed me. So, yeah, you were about to get hit by a truck.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You pushed me. You should never do that. Don't lay a hand on me again.
What a world.
Like, are we fighting that I saved you? I'm like, okay.
It's crazy. All the news people are at the beach in Clearwater right now, which I don't know. Is it going to hit that far south? It looks like it's heading more towards that corner of the panhandle that it always gets wiped out, which is really unfortunate. And it's great. I mean, I don't know that Ron, first he mentioned Hunter Biden. As he was addressing the people about hurricane emergency and how serious the threat is, and he had to throw in a shot. Well, you see, that Hunter Biden got away with everything. And you're asking yourself, well, how did his name come up there, right? I thought the name of the hurricane was Adalia. I didn't hear Hunter Biden anywhere. They're blaming the Bidens for it and the Democrats. And, of course, we all know that Republicans forever have been looking at global warming as if it was a hoax, as if it was a myth. Your man Donald Trump. I mean, well, I don't know about any of this. What are they trying to talk about, right? You follow the science, you'd be better off following the money. But it does seem absurd what's happening, including that the waters which the hurricane will use to enforce itself and intensify from a Category 1 to a Category 3 are warmer than the water I used to keep in my hot tub, even after leaving it on all night. Right? I mean, the Gulf is like at 90-something degrees, so this thing is going to be something. Well, we'll keep you posted on that. We naturally do have feelings and empathy for anybody that's impacted by this, because we know that it isn't easy.
Oh, yeah.
And we saw what happened last year. I mean, that was just absolute devastation, which takes years to recover from. So Adalia heading with a bullseye. Normally, it's a bullseye on my house whenever they have the cone of death, but we're hoping everybody is safe. There's no way to outrun this thing either, right? Like if you're in Tampa, they're making people evacuate. But where do you go? That's the problem.
No. We would stay at my house. Like my parents, we lived in the same house since I was born. We never left once. I don't look. I get it if you're going to a shelter, but like even when we've been hit hard by storms, people were safe in their home for the most. Like even Andrew, like I don't know how many casualties there were.
You weren't safe down there if you were in that. What was that, Cutler Ridge area? Homestead.
I'm trying to think, like, even when we've had hurricanes, like Wilma hit the Broward area pretty hard, but I don't remember. I don't know. I guess you're supposed to leave. I would never tell someone not to leave, but we wouldn't leave.
Certain areas, I mean, you should evacuate. I mean, we're on the east side of the bridge here.
Yeah,
the bridge goes out. You're not getting out. Yeah. So that's not good. If there was an evacuation order, I'm out of here. Right? It's just, where do you go? I remember that one time, I forget which hurricane it was. It's a few years ago, and we went to Orlando, and of course, that was the hardest hit area.
Yeah, see, that's why to leave the area, when people run the
thing in Orlando, no, nothing hits Orlando.
I mean, I guess in the state and you go up north, fine. But to me, that I would never even consider that. I honestly wouldn't consider leaving the house, except for the fact that our house, we don't have shutters yet, and her parents have impact everything. So I would probably do something like that. Go to her parents. They're on a hospital grid. They never lose fucking power, and they have a generator. And their impact, like, so if I was going to leave, I'd go to a house that was safe. I wouldn't go to.
You married into a good family there.
Yeah. What do you mean? When we were dating, that was when there was the one storm that I was at I went to my parents, and they lost power for like a day, and it was like hell. We're fighting over peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Sure, they were grilling steaks, having wine, and watching a movie. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, sorry, they're calling me. There's more margaritas. I'll call you later, hon. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, Mom, you can't have the peanut butter.
You're trying to plug a toaster in, so you can have like a piece of white bread that you had left in the fridge toasted. Incredible. All right. Well, we wish everybody the best with that, but it is, I don't know. I mean, the panic that's usually stirred up by the news media in advance of these events. After a while, it was the boy who cried wolf. But then when Hurricane Andrew hit, I think when you saw the aerial shots of Homestead, that was the first time it really sunk in that, you know what? I don't care. They can have the sportscaster go out there and be hanging perpendicular to the ground off a tree, and they can exaggerate it all they want. They're still, you don't want to be in the path of this thing and be unprepared.
No.
That's for sure. The Home Depot raids, and and why, I understand everybody. Look, me, Mr. Procrastination, waiting to the last minute, but how unprepared can you be at this stage? That after preparing for 50 different hurricanes over the last several years, you don't at least have a few cans of soup in the pantry, something, some beans, anything, water. Why is it at the shelves are always barren? Right before these hurricanes hit, and not even right before, like 48 hours before. So if you were waiting for the last minute, you're out of luck anyway. But anyway, that's stirring up, and here we are. We're still in the middle of it. You tend to forget about it when you don't have any action there for the first couple of months of the hurricane season. All right, many things happening. Of course, we do have college and pro football kicking off again. That we did have some games in the regular season of college football in week 0, but it really intensifies this week. My favorite, of course, is that Nick Saban is already crying. They should have a daily item. What is Nick crying about today? No, they lost Bryce Young, who they had the luxury of having as their quarterback the last several seasons. What was it, a couple of years he was there? 3 years? And so they have to replace him. And there's going to be a large curiosity about who's going to be the Alabama quarterback. Would you think that that's a fair question to ask Nick Saban in a press conference? Hey, Nick, you're a couple of days away from playing your first game of the season. Who's your starting quarterback? He refuses to put out a depth chart and name his starting quarterback because he cited the usual Nick Saban reason for not doing something that everybody else in the universe is very happy and very considerate in terms of providing this information to people. He doesn't want to do it because it'll cause too many distractions.
What?
That was his excuse.
That's
Naming a starting quarterback would be a big distraction for his team. Now, I would think just the opposite.
That's a load of garbage.
Yeah.
Even by Nick's standard, like, he can bitch and moan about things that we know he's highly involved in, transfer portal, NIL, when they've been paying their players since fucking Bear Bryant. So that's a load of garbage.
Yeah.
But fine, whatever. Get high and mighty. No one has been able. It's like Coach K.
You think Joe Willie went there just because he liked Schnellenberger?
No one's been able to prove what they do. Fine. So you can be high and mighty. That is totally illogical. Like, look, Norvell, we had him on last week. He talked about competition. That's fine.
Yeah.
You want competition. But the week of the games, don't you want it to settle down? Don't you want to know the chain of command? That makes that.
Wouldn't you want the guy who's starting to know that he's starting?
Yes, that seems fucking dumb. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I not that I know more than Nick Saban, obviously I don't, but I don't remember any year where he didn't have a starting quarterback by now. So don't tell me you've done something for 40 years and suddenly the other thing's a smart thing. No, you don't know your starter, and that's scary as shit. And you're trying to spin it, and there's no spin. Like, that's a load of garbage.
He's got 8 guys on the payroll that all were 5-star blue chip, whatever, Camper All-Americans. And he can't tell which one of them is going to be his starting quarterback 4 days before his big opener, which it wouldn't matter who he started at quarterback. He could go ahead and get Joe Willie to come back with his knees in their current condition and probably win against Middle Tennessee State.
Well, the problem is, I think week 2 is their big out-of-conference game, and it's Texas this time. I mean, if people remember, Texas should have beat them last year and fucked around late. They're now playing Texas a second year, and Texas is freaking loaded this year. This year is the year Texas has the big offensive lineman, the big defensive lineman, a sick wide receiver room, a loaded quarterback room. Like, this is Sark's big year. So that's what it's not Middle Tennessee. He is like, oh, fuck. And they don't have the experience at quarterback and offensive line and defensive line. So that's the thing, is he's not worried about Middle Tennessee. Texas is coming for revenge, and I don't know if he's scared, but he's a little like, oh shit, what do I do? Which is weird.
How does this hurt him to name a starting quarterback for the Middle Tennessee game, which is Saturday, and this is now Tuesday? He has no idea who he's going to start a quarterback. He's going to convince, or actually, it's a secret. I guess he knows, but he doesn't want to create any kind of distraction for his players heading into this big game. Ridiculous. Another ridiculous contention by Nick Saban, but it's all part of what makes college football so much fun. As they pay Middle Tennessee State, $1 million to come in there and just get shellacked. My God, this is worse than the Canelo Alvarez management team, the way that they handle things in college football, right? Let's just go to another German graveyard and dig up another stiff. We'll pay the family $1 million for the fact that we're bringing back some memories by exhuming the body. We'll knock them out, and then boom, right back in the grave. That's where they go. Do they put them back in the same grave after they dig them up? Those Canelo opponents. What do you think, Lubie?
Do they put him back?
Bury him right where he was. We don't want to disturb nothing. In fact, leave the flowers. Leave the gun. Take the cannoli. That's it. So we have college football on tap and a whole bunch of things happening there we'll get into during the course of the show. And of course, the U.S. Open opened up. They didn't have qualifying. I don't know. Well, where do you say that it officially started? I guess, I would have to consider it yesterday. Official start of the U.S. Open with round one matches. A lot of interesting storylines to follow, including, you have a lot of players coming back. Caroline Wozniacki, I guess she was in action in a couple of these prelude tournaments leading up to the U.S. Open on the hard courts. I think she at least played in one and did win a match also, but she won her opening round match coming back after being out of the game for 3 or 4 years, right? What was it, that Rory McIlroy thing when he stiffed her at the altar that finally, convinced her, hey, I don't want to play anymore? She ended up having a baby. So she's one of a few women on the women's side that are actually in motherhood right now and still playing tennis, which is kind of an interesting thing. Your girl Venus is in there as a wild card. Last year, of course, we had the insufferable finale for Serena Williams.
Oh, my God.
Which, no matter how hard I tried to embrace it, I just couldn't stand 1 second of it. These poor women that were playing Serena Williams, they found a patsy for her in the first round. Second round, she took on a girl who was in complete decline in Cornet, who had been ranked very highly and had a high ranking. Thus, the draw with Serena in the second round, she fell completely apart and has really done nothing to distinguish herself since. And then she played Ayla Tomljanovic in the third round, and that turned out to be a dramatic match. But who could forget Serena's grand entrances and then the fond farewell that she gave, where once again, in total indignity, she never mentioned her opponent once in her closing remarks. Not one time did she say, hey, I tell you what, man, I thought I was going to have a shot to move on here, but this Isla played a whale of a match, and you guys were totally against her. She was being heckled during her serves, and she held on. So congratulations to her. Nothing of the sort from Serena. Complaining about virtually everything else. But remember, she came out there in those wild outfits?
Yep.
You didn't know if you were watching Serena Williams or the fabulous Moolah coming out there. Here we are in the main event. I got the fabulous Moolah. I tell you what, people would say she might be the greatest female wrestler ever to lace up the boots and shorts. Like, what? What is this woman that should be talking to Gordon Soley doing out there with a tennis racket? But remember, she had these flamboyant outfits and everything. She was taking bows, and everybody was there. The Obamas are showing up. I mean, anybody. I think they even dug up like Martin Luther King to come out there and pay tribute to her. And she did distinguish herself, I guess, by winning a couple of matches. But never was I more relieved than to see Serena Williams lose. And so she disappeared. Now, Venus, for some reason, for me, is far more tolerable. I don't think she was obnoxious during her career. She never struck me. I mean, she had a few things that you would look at and say, come on, Venus. Let's come around. She could have helped that guy, Jerry Adler, by saying that nobody should take offense. Remember the announcer from ESPN that said Venus was using guerrilla tactics? And everybody, he ended up losing his job and his career was ruined. He had a heart attack after from the stress. And I'm not sure if he worked again. This was a guy that didn't have, at least as far as we could see or decipher, didn't have a racist bone in his body. In fact, he was involved in youth tennis, promoting minorities to play the game. So his heart was completely in the right place. And yet he was struck down because Venus wouldn't come to his defense. And, that's always annoying, right? Tiger Woods was like that a little bit, where somebody would get in trouble for saying so. Fuzzy Zeller, he could have saved him, right? Tiger Woods. Fuzzy Zeller said I made that comment. Now, Fuzzy, we've said it many times. He was just a guy that was always trying to make jokes. And when you're in that business, Lubie, not that we would know about something like that, there's a chance you might say something somewhere that somebody could pick apart and say, oh, my God, how could he possibly have said that? I've said things many times. As soon as they come out of your mouth, you're asking yourself, we don't have the cancel culture as much. now that you're not on like terrestrial radio or mainstream TV, but still there, I guess. I mean, if you were popular enough, everybody's trying to find a way to take your number down. There's a steward's inquiry on just about every word that you utter in this business. But all Venus had to do was say, "Hey, I know what the guy was saying. He didn't mean anything by it. Leave him alone." Never made that comment. So, had a little bit of Serena in her in that regard. But what was it? Should she have come to this guy's defense, Louis? What do you think? I
Uh,
mean,
I don't
it
know.
would have been very easy for Tiger Woods to snuff out that whole Fuzzy Zeller thing.
I mean, the term guerrilla tactic.
Offended could he be when Fuzzy said, "Yeah, well, what now?" You frozen.
You had frozen. I don't know if they have to come to their defense in that regard, but they can definitely, like, the term guerrilla tactics is a sports term, and it's definitely a tennis term. Like, I've heard it in use with tennis. I get it. I guess you're supposed to know the room. Okay, don't use this tennis term.
Nobody's assuming, though. Anybody viewing would not assume, oh, well, he's saying that Venus Williams, because she's a black girl, looks like a gorilla. Can you? I mean, how do you make that connection? You're viewing a tennis match, and she comes charging to the net like Martina Navratilova in her prime, puts away a volley. And, this Adler guy who's been calling tennis forever says, wow, I mean, you really have to appreciate, all he's saying is the aggressiveness of Venus Williams in this spot.
Yes. Look, it's like the term chink in your armor is an actual, and I don't think it derives anything from Asian anything. I think it's an actual term.
A chink in the armor, yeah. I mean, there's like, some kind of little smudge there in the armor. So when you never think, oh, geez, how disparaging that is to Chinese people.
So you shouldn't, so I wouldn't even consider anything, whether it's an Asian person or anything, because to me, it's just a phrase. But I get, like, that one person that got in trouble. I guess if you are speaking of someone Asian, you shouldn't even get near it. I don't know. Look, I think a lot like that, but not everyone does. So a lot of people just get on there and go, and it's their own detriment. But yes, it would have been cool for Venus to be like, look, we know what the term guerrilla tactics means. Come on, guys. Like, the dude wasn't talking about me. The dude was talking about the way I was playing, which is a clear term when it comes to this sport and many other sports.
How do ESPN executives, how did they not understand that?
Yeah, but because they're just so scared of everything now. They're just so scared of,
this is years ago already, but I mean, the fact that the guy never came back around.
What do you mean? This guy just got in trouble for looking by his own team because the teams are so fucking soft that they don't want their own guys criticizing him. That the guy read a graphic of
the Baltimore guy. Yeah,
I read a graphic that his people put up, not him. That was cleared. Graphics are cleared, by the way, and was just giving what had happened. It wasn't even an opinion. He was just saying, yeah, the Orioles have struggled with the Rays, which is just a word of opinion, word of fact. They were 0-2 so far this season. Hello, they were 0-2. Like, teams are so weird that they're so scared of any criticism that the guy got in trouble for stating a fact. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just we're in this weird look. It's why radio is so fucking boring now, because they're so scared to have anyone say anything with any kind of opinion. God forbid it pisses someone off. Okay, your people are gonna get pissed off sometimes. Like, I don't know.
Remember how crazy they were about politics, right? We were doing some Trump stuff. No, that's our opinion. I believe this, that if you're going to view a show, listen to a show, watch somebody that is a supposed personality that's bringing you whatever information and or entertainment that you're looking for, it doesn't hurt to know where they're coming from. And, people shouldn't be afraid to establish that. People would tell me, hey, listen, man, you better lay off that Trump stuff. This was when it was even more volatile, going back to 2016? When he first ran for president, and we would say what we thought, that the guy's a scumbag and a piece of shit. Guess what? We were right. I don't know that anybody could think otherwise. Although, I mean, it still is frightening to see the amount of support that this man is getting from various people. And I keep contending this. I don't care what your ideas are, what your political motives are. Whether you think that Democrats are all fools and they're spending money and they're taking care of people that don't want to work or whatever, or letting too many migrants in. All those may be legitimate arguments and certainly worth discussing. But to have this guy representing your ideas and supposedly be the guy, I mean, of all the people in the world, there isn't anybody else that the Republican Party can, put out there and say, hey, here's a guy of nobility that is capable of doing something in terms of running the country. Instead of, I mean, has Trump stated anything about what he would actually do
Well,
if in office?
he talks about the things that are happening now, saying I wouldn't let that happen. When we've seen
This is a guy that's delusional, clearly, though. I mean, how can he possibly look at 7 million votes and think that he won this election?
Well, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, it's come out that he didn't think he won. He knew. Many people from his own.
He lost. I mean, you look at the scoreboard, my friend.
He knew early he lost. He turned to them and said, "Yeah." They're like, "Yeah, you lost." He's like, "I know, but fuck it, let's milk this shit." Like that's why it's worse to me. It's that he doesn't. People do this thing now, and the professor's been talking to me. Look, I think he's just dumb. I'm like, look, I'm not saying he's not dumb. I don't think he's a Mensa candidate, but I also think he's evil too. I also think he's evil too. I think it's naive to say he's just dumb. He's not.
There are people that are not necessarily intellectually gifted.
Yeah, but they're not fucking.
That are very good at being con men.
Oh, well, that's
that's where Trump is. I mean, he's very clever at that.
I don't think there's plenty of people that aren't bright but are sweet. Like you can be bright and not mean and evil. So, like you can be stupid and be a good person. Like being stupid doesn't mean you're gonna fucking try and steal the election. Sorry. Like,
well, I mean, also when not to cut you off again, but I mean, when a guy suggested you gargle with Clorox to get rid of COVID. Or that we, do something along the lines of, having people ingest Clorox. When in the middle of a press briefing, you turn to somebody and go, hey, you think we could do something like that? That's a good idea. It's fucking howdy doody time at that point, my friends.
That's the phrase that a lot of young people won't have heard, but my dad grew up saying, my dad would say that all the time, and that's what it feels like.
It's howdy doody time. I mean, you're sending the clowns. Have Aaron Boone run the country.
Oh, did you hear Casper wants to keep Boone?
Of course. Seems like a really good guy. I mean, who wouldn't want this guy around you? Whatever you do, you could be hitting $140 with 1,000 strikeouts. And Boone will go up in front of the press and go, well, I think he's really doing a good job. It's only a matter of time before he snaps out of it. Aaron, it's been 5 years. Giancarlo Stanton couldn't make contact with a softball being thrown up there by Jenny Finch with an oar. Come on.
Oh, wow. The Yankees are actually like 5 games under 500 now. Oh, God. They actually have the record to match their place in the division now.
I did a little tracking. I'm glad to transition into some baseball here because we kind of didn't say anything about it. And we're getting into that period of time. Look, the month of September is where it all happens, is it not?
Yes.
They always talk about, nothing transpires at the Masters. It's never decided till you get to the back nine on Sunday. That's when it all goes down. Mm-hmm. And you could say the same thing about September. Is it true in baseball? Is it true that December is the telling month for football teams in the NFL? Does it matter what happens in September? Yes, it does.
The Patriots, for the last few years when they were good, not now, they openly discussed, were they using September as preseason?
Yes. I think, essentially teams are forced into that. Jason Cole has discussed that with us, that don't even bother looking at what goes on in September because that has become the new preseason.
Yeah.
We haven't seen enough of any of these teams to have any definitive opinion. I guess if you're coasting and partying and, you're watching the Kansas City Chiefs, they were. Did they play last night? The Chiefs, were they part of that Monday night game? I want to say yes. To that.
Monday night game? Oh, that's annoying.
I was Chiefs Browns, I believe, last night. Chiefs and the Browns.
I saw something on my TV, but I'm like, well, it must be a replay. I didn't realize there was actually a Monday night game.
Was there? I don't know. Maybe that wasn't live action. Did they play already on Sunday? I'm watching a game on NFL Network. I would imagine. Well, ESPN was televising the U.S. Open, which we'll get into a little bit.
There was a
interesting
Sunday
action
game, and that was a Texans thing, so it was not a Monday.
Okay. Okay, so this was not live.
No. That's what I thought. I'm like,
all right. I mean, when you're watching them, you're thinking, is this any real indication of how they're going to do in the regular season? I mean, have we seen enough of the Miami Dolphins to form any definitive conclusions about how well they're going to play offensively or defensively, for that matter?
I mean, Armstead hasn't played at all, and I get it. Can you count on Armstead? Yes, Armstead's supposed to play by week 1. So Armstead may miss 5 games this year. He's supposed to play in the actual NFL season. He didn't play 1 snap. Waddle, for whatever his injuries are, he's actually fine. He should play the entire year. He didn't play one snap in the preseason. Tyreek Hill would catch like one schmanky ball
Yeah.
and sit out. Tua didn't play more than 2 drives, and both times the first drive sucked. They looked lost, and then the second drive he was fine. Like, I'm taking nothing from the Dolphins, and even the defense would be like, "Oh, the real defense." Wilkins and Sealer, who have turned out to be 2 of their most important players, didn't play like at all in the preseason. So again, how good could their defense be? Like, if the Cowboys don't have Micah Parsons out there, who gives a shit what the rest of the defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to tell. You're missing the key ingredient.
I think Phillips played like 4.
The big hand on the clock is not going around. So, what does that tell you about what time it is? We don't know.
From the preseason, I know the Chiefs sort of cared and the Ravens sort of care. I don't know. I take nothing from it. But the opposite in baseball, this is when everything should matter, at least. I mean, this is the end of the goddamn
Oh,
season.
September, yeah, is when it's all decided. All right, so here's where we're at. The wild card chase and the added wild card team has created quite a bit of excitement in numerous cities around Major League Baseball that otherwise would be hopelessly out of contention for any kind of postseason berth. The Yankees, you would have to say, 11 games back. There's no way. They're 11 games out of the wild card, out of the third wild card spot.
That's crazy.
So that's not happening. And 5 games under 500 at this stage. How do you not let go Aaron Boone after a season like this? And even if you kept Boone, I would be more inclined to let go of Cashman. What track record is it of success? And don't you have to grade that on somewhat of a curve? I mean, you have a track record of success, yes, but you've been given every possible advantage over all of these other clubs for the most part, with the exception of a few. How many clubs can compete with the Yankees in terms of money spent on high-profile players and supposedly, wildly productive players? And then, the bigger issue, and we kind of dealt with this a little bit last night, a story that we'll get to here in just a sec, but you can't buy your way out of mistakes in most situations. Whereas these high payroll and high profitable teams in the big markets like the Dodgers, Yankees, they can afford to eat it on a guy. If Giancarlo Stanton sucks, guess what? You can go get another guy.
Yes.
And you don't have to. The $300 million doesn't mean so much to you as it might. I mean, if the Marlins had, unfortunately, imagine if they had retained Stanton.
Oh no, it's everything.
If they kept this guy, they would have been buried for 10 years.
Yes.
Incredible. Thank goodness the Yankees were out there to take him off your hands, right? Sell it to the rich guy. He'll buy anything as a favor. But anyway, all right. So we're in the race a little bit. We being, of course, the Marlins here in South Florida, 2.5 out. It doesn't appear overwhelmingly favorable. They would have to get hot in September, and it does not look like a team that is primed to go on a big winning streak. Now, you don't know. You never know what can happen. We'll see. They made some changes, for the most part good, although David Robertson, you would have to say, so far, I mean, costing them 3 games. Okay, let's say he failed once. They would have 2 more victories, and that would be largely significant because they're 2.5 out of the wild card. So that's a game of that 2.5 right there if they had 2 more wins. Arizona, which looked to be hopelessly out of it, they were plummeting. I mean, they were dropping like a rock, like a bowling ball being thrown into the pool. They just boom right to the bottom. But they're back in a position in a wild card spot. The Phillies are up 4.5 games in a wild card. Cubs are up a half a game on the Zona, who's in the third wild card spot. San Francisco a half game back. Cincinnati 1 on the hook. Marlins 2.5. So the Marlins have to climb over and jump ahead of Cincinnati, San Francisco, and knock out Arizona and/or the Cubs. That's not going to be easy. Yeah.
And they've struggled. I mean, their pitching and their hitting can't get on the same page. If the pitching has a good day, the hitting sucks. If the hitting wakes up, the pitching sucks. Like, it's the wrong time of the year to be this off.
Yes. They finished the month of August series that begins tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Rays have a pretty good ironclad lock on the wild card, or one of the wild card spots. The Rays are sitting 5.5 up in the wild card chase. Texas and Houston are both in a dead heat, 5.5 back. Toronto's 2.5 behind those two teams, and Boston 5.5 back. And we're discounting the Yankees at 11. If the Yankees make it in, that would take balls to bet the Yankees right now to make the postseason. What if they did? Aaron Boone would suddenly be manager of the year, Cashman executive of the year. Everybody's safe. So those races are great because look, you have all these different cities now that are tracking games night after night, night in and night out. They're meaningful, although the question would be, how much longer will they be meaningful for the Miami Marlins?
Mm.
And what do you do from here? Where do you go from here? Do you feel good about the season that you had? Yes,
Yeah.
but do you feel that it's a springboard for future success
I don't
with
know.
the roster they
My
have?
problem is the pitching was interesting, but like Mayer's supposed to be like one of your arms of the future. What's going on with him? I know he got hurt last year, but it's been a long time. Like, what the fuck's going on with him? Sixto has totally fallen off the radar. Cabrera was supposed to be one of your young phenom arms. What the fuck happened to him? Perez has been everything they thought it would be, and after struggling right when he came back, he's looked good again. Contra has been so weird all year. Like, the young pitching was supposed to be their calling card, and I don't know what you do with that going forward. And then the lineup, like Jazz Chisholm is supposed to be their centerpiece.
But would you say this? I was thinking about this because we were thinking about like exciting players. I was anyway. Like who are the most exciting players in town? If you were going to say who is the most exciting player on the Miami Marlins, would it be Jazz Chisholm? In spite of the fact that he seems to be, very much underachieving for the potential and the hype that was surrounding him, and the fact that he was on the cover of the Major League Baseball video game, has like that kind of electric quality to him, and yet doesn't really. This guy can't hit left-handers for shit, Lubie. You see what he does against left-handers? He's batting like 100 against left-handed pitching. You can't do that and be, a player that's going to be considered a star. I mean, you have to be a little bit more efficient than that. No, hitting 100 against lefties,
between
crazy.
Health issues and just even when he's playing now, he's not that good. Like, he's been forgotten. Arise is a good player, but in this day and age, being an average guy isn't sexy, and who knows what it's going to do for your club. Like, I don't know what. Look, they were better than they were supposed to be. They went for it, which is cool. But will they do it again next year? Like, that's my thing is that like you're saying, they went for it and it failed. The Yankees can say fuck it. The Dodgers can say fuck it. We've even seen the Angels say screw it. Yeah. Like, can the Marlins say screw it? Can the Marlins fail and then go, well, we're going to just do it again next year? Because even the Mets, who have tons of money, have said, yeah, we're going to take a year off. We went for it this year. It didn't work. We're going to take a year off because we can't, I guess, afford it, which is weird to me. What the hell are the Marlins going to do then? Like, are the Marlins going to double down again next year? That's what I'm curious to see is in this offseason, do they keep being aggressive or do they go, oh, shit, what do we do? Like, that's going to be big for me.
Yeah. I mean, the whole theory that Jeter had, it had some merit. You're also, maybe selling your public a bill of like Trumpian, schlock, truths because, you're saying, okay, well, we're going to build this farm system up. And then it turns out that all of the people that you had in the farm system bombed out and or, never had it to begin with.
Yep.
And that's doesn't speak well for your scouting staff. I mean, you have to be. It's the old saying. I always loved this when they used to put the little 3 words about some horse's chances after they would list the post positions and the odds and the jockey and the trainer, and then there would be like a little comment. And one of my favorites all time was "must make no mistakes."
Yeah.
In which you're thinking, okay, that this horse has to have everything go his way if he's going to win a race. That's understandable. And it was usually a phrase, a descriptive phrase that was assigned to Lubie, some pig.
Yes.
That was 30-1. And the comment, because the guy had run out of comments that he could use, would say, must make no mistakes. But it's very true, with a roster and a team, a franchise that's in the situation. And you're assuming that the Rays are also in that same situation. The Oakland A's naturally are in that situation. And for years, they were able to sustain themselves. The A's fell off this year, but I mean, they had a pretty good run there with Billy Ball and Moneyball. And they, managed to come up with teams that were competitive no matter how impossible the circumstances. Same thing with the Rays. I mean, what are the Rays doing with a lock on a wild card and the Yankees are 11 games out of the 3rd spot? Isn't that crazy when you think about it? Now,
obviously, yes.
How is it possible, right? Their roster gets rated for any valuable free agent every season. And they can't pay these guys the big money on extensions, and they're destined to turn over players of high quality in a very short period of time, and they sustain this year after year after year. It's incredible. Have no support, no zero support. A stadium situation that is as horrendous as any in Major League Baseball. A fan base that is largely indifferent, and still every year they manage to do it. And you would think everybody would copy that formula, but it doesn't happen.
It's not that easy. That's the thing. All these organizations have tried, the Pirates and the Marlins. Look, the Orioles have finally took. Okay, how long have the Orioles been bad? Like since what? Cal Ripken?
Forever. Yeah.
Like, it's been 20 years. Peter Angelo's they've been bad a long time to finally hit it. And we'll see how long this lasts for the Orioles. We'll see if this is like the Astros where it became a year in, year out thing. I tend to believe it's a one-hit one. You'll remember the Indians, now Guardians, did do this, did make a World Series a few years ago, and then went back to sucking. A lot of the times you'll see these teams go cheap, have that 1 year, like the Royals. The Royals sucked forever. They had those 2 years in a row where they flirted with the World Series and then went back to sucking. These teams that do this don't usually sustain it. So the Rays are one team that's been able to sustain it.
Incredible. Yes.
They just have an insane scouting department, and most of these teams don't. The Marlins brought over the Yankee scouts that found Aaron Judge and found all these guys.
Gary Denbo.
Work here. They sucked. Every guy they drafted was bad. Every guy was bad.
Where's J.J. Bleday today?
Oh, my God.
Didn't they trade him to Oakland? I think they did for a bag of baseballs. Incredible. That were already, cut up a little bit. Some of the seams were a little bit frayed. So anyway, very exciting. We're in it, but we're not in it. You have no belief.
We're in it, but we're not in it.
It's true. I mean, and I would hope that would be a fitting culmination to what has been a surprisingly decent season in terms of results for the Marlins. If somehow they made the postseason, and you would have to think in a short series, I mean, they might have enough pitching to actually be a factor.
What's funny about this team is in spurts, they look like they have talent. Because Alcantara did win a Cy Young. Luzardo's had really great stretches. Perez has been dominant at times. And all you need is 3 pitchers.
Perez has come back pretty sharp his last couple of starts.
Yes. And before he went down, he was great. Okay, so that's 3 guys. All you need is 3 guys, right? So you can move some of these guys to the bullpen. Then they might have a strong bullpen. At times, their bullpen has pitched really well this year. And their lineup, starting off with a rise, now with Berger and Bell.
Berger and Bell have helped, no doubt.
And Chisholm could wake up. Could be a very interesting playoff roster. The problem is getting there. That's the funny thing is if they got to the playoffs, I wouldn't want to see this team. There is talent on this team. Getting there, it feels like they're slugging down the stretch, and it's like.
How good are these teams ahead of them? I mean, that's the other thing you have to look at. Can San Francisco sustain it? Is Arizona really going to continue to play well enough to win the wild card in September? Cincinnati certainly have had their ups and downs. So is it impossible to eclipse those teams, the Cubs? You're looking at 4 teams that they have to overcome. And it's not insurmountable, but you better start now, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's kind of like Joe Goosen. I saw this. I happened to tune in right at the moment of truth, round 10. Diego Corrales and Jose Luis Castillo, possibly among the greatest rounds of boxing. I mean, you could make a case for Hagler Hearns round 1. And there have been many others. They're just absolute thrilling rounds in boxing history. But this one might have been it, right? If you're familiar with this, you've probably seen this knockout a million times. But what I'll never forget, and I was watching a fight live, and you could actually catch this. Corrales gets knocked down twice in a round and looks to be completely out of it. His eye is swollen up, practically shut. He looks like an absolutely beaten fighter. Round 10, Castillo, a hard hitter. And Joe Goosen's in the corner, and Corrales had spit his mouthpiece out both times that he got knocked down. The second time, a completely obvious maneuver, and I think he might have even been penalized a point there for spitting the mouthpiece out. Anyway, so he spends a little lengthy time in the corner there while Goosen is cleaning off the mouthpiece and reinserting it. And I'll never forget, Goosen says something along the lines of, "You better fucking do something about this right now." I think, Joe, I mean, if anything, maybe throw in the towel, protect your guy. This guy's finished. There's no way he comes back. And somehow he lands a shot and gets Castillo in trouble, and they end up stopping the fight. I think Tony Weeks was the referee, steps in there, appropriately so, because the guy was, Castillo was out on his feet. And it was just a remarkable turnaround. But, I mean, this is what you would have to say to the Marlins at this point, no? You better fucking do something about this right now.
Yeah, I mean, you make your move now or it's done.
Or it's over, yeah.
Yeah, they're winning 2 to 3 games. They're not out of it. And all 5 of the teams, including the Marlins with those 4 teams, are very similar. They've been up and down all year long. It just feels like the Marlins is letting us slip away at the worst time.
Is there going to be a shocker among NFL cuts? Have we seen any yet? Colt McCoy got let go. I mean, he's been in the league like 35 years.
I honestly didn't know he was still in the league.
Colt McCoy. He lasted a lot longer than people would have, imagined. Colt McCoy, who you thought didn't he look like he had some possibilities to be a decent pro quarterback? He had a few moments where you would look and say, all right, not the worst, certainly capable of being a Brian Hoyer type. If Brian Hoyer's in the league, couldn't Colt McCoy be there as well? But he got let go. I don't know if he's going to get picked up anywhere. When did he break in there? Did he break in with Y.A. Tittle, Colt McCoy?
No, he did start before you and I started doing a show together. He was a quarterback after Vince Young at Texas. So it was like the 2000s. Before 2010, I think it was like the mid 2000s was when he was at Texas. So he's probably been in the league like 15, 16 years. 17 years, which is
Mike
weird.
Mayo's implying that Fuzzy was a little bit of a racist.
He's not implying it.
that he meant what he said. He used to cover golf. I mean, I found Fuzzy. I just thought Fuzzy was one of these guys that was always making jokes, and just made a bad one there. Or one that in an era of political sensitivity and cancel culture probably wasn't the most appropriate thing to say. That, all black people are going to be eating fried chicken. What do you expect?
So McCoy was in the 2010 draft, so 13 years.
Wow, 13 years. All right. Well, I mean, the whole
guy was only a backup. Like, he never started at all ever. Like, he was only a backup. Like, that's impressive.
He didn't start at any time?
Times, obviously, but I'm saying, like, no, I don't remember a year where they started the season like Colt McCoy's our quarterback, and then he played the starting role the entire year. Like, he may have started as a starter, but there was always hope someone else would unseat him, or he came in as the starter, again, hoping someone would unseat him. Like,
imagine you're the coach and you're penciling in Colt McCoy as your starter. Nothing against him personally, but
fine.
Pretty much know that you're doomed and that your contract will soon be in the shredder in the general manager's office. All right, we're going to come back with more. We're going to be joined later on, talk a little tennis with Harvey Fialkov, U.S. Open. It was great last night. I watched some of the action. Coco Gauff was in a bloodbath with a woman that she was having nothing but troubles with,
it's not good.
both in terms of the game itself and then the mental game that was taking place. A girl named Laura Sigmund, a German, who won the first set against Coco Gauff. So you're thinking, here's one of the favorites. People are making a case. There was even a sign, is this the year, that Coco does it at the U.S. Open itself. She's played very well in the hard court tournaments leading up to the U.S. Open and giving you an indication that maybe she beat Swiatek there, Swiatek.
Tech, I don't know. Whatever.
I'm going to go. I don't know. I really
yet to hear, and I love this from Mom. I'm not saying she's wrong, but it's much like Qatar, where she said it probably the right way, but people were okay saying it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably Qatar.
Is it really Qatar? I mean, we're talking Mariano Rivera here? What are we talking about?
No one ever called it Qatar. Everyone just accepted saying it wrong and it was okay. Like, even today, you said Tony Dorsett said his name says something else. I've never heard it. I've never, ever, even when he was on a set, heard it pronounced as Dorsett. So even he eventually was like, fuck it. Like, she threw you off really bad because you never had a problem saying that woman's name before. And now every time it takes you 4 times.
Issue various qualifiers.
Good. So it sort of sucks because you have to mention her, but it's like, all right, here's 30 seconds.
Swiatek. I thought I heard somebody pronounce it Swiatek last night.
It's pronounced that way every time. I don't watch
it. But it's the SCH thing, like Schwitz.
I'm not saying they're right. Again, to his name is...
She doesn't spell it that way, though. It's SWIATEK.
And Vince Romano wants an N there. On top
She
of
wants a Shva and Shvia.
she wants a Shviantek is what you said she thinks it is, or she knows it to be. I'm not gonna doubt her. She's Vish Mama, but I'm just saying if
Having
everyone
a lot of tennis, you know.
if everyone says it wrong, it's like fuck it. At least for me.
My man Holger Rune was complaining about being on court 5, and he doesn't have to complain about that anymore because he got eliminated yesterday.
Yeah, there you go.
Holger Rune, and there was action. No, I gave you that guy Bublik, right, to win against Dominic Thiem. Straight set loss.
Okay.
Team was the Redeem team last night, and went out there and just smoked this guy. Bublik, who I think is a pretty good player. I mean, he had to be a little bit upset with that. Sloane Stephens also got knocked out in a 3-set match. Sloane Stephens have been playing pretty well, kind of a quasi comeback of sorts that she's been making to try and get back into a level of prominence. And well, that was a weird transition. I just got distracted on TV. They went right from the hurricane to Donald Trump's hair.
Oh,
Would like to see this cat out there on the beach reporting. That'd be great. You see, there's nothing to this global warming, right? As the guy gets like blown into the Gulf of Mexico. And we're going to come back with more. Harvey Fialkov going to talk a little tennis with us. I would imagine he'll do some kvetching about his Yankees also.
I was gonna say you probably
don't need to discuss tennis.
You could probably just say the New York Yankees, and probably could do 20 minutes on it, like for sure.
Bronx Bombers, go.
Hey, you know, I tell you what, they got to get rid of Cashman.
I mean, you talk about whining about, that there are only 2 packets of Sweet and Low on the table. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show, and I'll be with you till 8:45. That's our new exit time, so we appreciate you guys being with us. No filter. You can find some of our other stuff, and Jim Sarney was saying, hey, that sounds like it's just a rehash of what you were doing on the show. Essentially,
it is.
It's a completely different audience. Yeah. No, but I mean, nobody that's watching No Filter is watching this. So you would have to assume.
Well, some people are, and that's fine. But the idea is to reach new people that aren't watching this. It's a national thing. My favorite is Sarney's texting me, as Sarney does these really long, drawn out things. And when I get through, the one thing that I got out of it was, should it really be called the morning briefing?
Oh, yeah.
Are you really briefing? And he's like, my idea of a briefing. And I'm like, I think your idea is actually wrong. Whenever I've heard of a briefing, it's what we do there. We go over a bunch of different topics.
Oh, no, I think Sony's concept was fine. It's just that we're not doing it.
No, but I'm saying, is that what a briefing is? Because from what I remember, he talked about Walter Cronkite or something. I'm like, what I remember a briefing being is going over a bunch of topics and very small, just giving a little bit of information about a bunch of topics. You're briefing people on.
Here's what we're looking at. Yes.
Of what happened from last night and what's going on today.
Sony wants specifics there. The problem is the morning briefing doesn't really have much to do with it except that it's on in the morning. And I always wanted to do a takeoff on the morning briefing aspect in the Daily Racing Forum, where, you're looking at, looking at I'm hearing this music in the background there. My phone alarm is going off. It goes off every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. I don't know why. And it's nowhere near me to turn it off. So we'll take a break here. I didn't realize we've been schlubbering for an hour, Libby.
We have.
Having too much fun here. Harvey's going to join us about 8:30. We have a lot of stuff to get into. We got football all over the board. And we'll be back with more on the Defo Show in a moment. But the morning briefing was just a takeoff on the Daily Racing Forum, where they would have like 2 or 3 news items, and they were always from like a half a century ago. That's kind of where we're at with that thing. It was more a takeoff on that than an actual briefing concept. Yeah. Maybe that takes some interpretation, but that was where it was at, Jim. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
I can tell it's 8 o'clock.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Which is in the state of Florida, has been in the Stone Age forever. I mean, we're still operating by blue laws. I don't even know if you can buy a beer before 12 o'clock on a Sunday. I'm not sure what religious cult is responsible for the legislation that takes place, but essentially Florida is structured this way. We're here in South Florida, which is very hip and up with modern times. And once you get, would you say, north of Palm Beach, Mike Lubitz, West Palm Beach, Florida, for those unfamiliar with the geography of the state, if you get like 30 miles out of town here, forget about it. It's hillbilly city. You're hearing banjo music and somebody's telling you to squat down like a pig when you pull up to the Waffle House. It's just the way it is.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here on a Tuesday. You're going to talk a little tennis and maybe some Yankee baseball with Harvey Fialkov, former sports writer for the Sun Sentinel. Still very much involved in tennis. He's umpiring. He has all the juniors scoped down here. Really knows the origins of some of these players and their roots in the game. Covered the sport for many, many years and still is an avid player. And he looks like he's in pretty good shape. I saw some pictures of Harvey, and he looks to be svelte and ready to go at the height of his athleticism, even though he's got to be zooming in on late 60s, maybe 70. Wow, dare we say it? Septuagenarian. So he's going to join us later on. As I said, a lot of interesting stuff. I took a brief perusal of the odds to win the championship, and you're trying to find something other than the obvious because you want to get some kind of a price. I mean, is there any great reward? And I imagine if you're convinced that somebody like Swiatek is going to win the tournament, is it worth getting like 2-1 on her as opposed to maybe taking a shot trying to broaden the scope of your thinking and saying, who could I find at like 20 or 30-1 that might have a chance? Now, if you can sniff this stuff out once in a while, you can really come up with a score. Because Rybakina, who won Wimbledon a couple of years ago, she had to be just a bomb, an absolute long shot going into that tournament. That's kind of where she established herself as a top player. Everybody's like, who's this tall drink of water? And she ended up winning Wimbledon and has been prominent. She has had some ups and downs in the slams, but you would have to consider her a factor. And I don't know how much of a price you would get on somebody like her, probably less than 10-1. And my girl Sabalenka, I don't know if she's kind of, back to the point where she's teetering a little bit. She's been battling. She could become the number one player in the world. The tall Belarusian, who are you familiar with Arina Sabalenka? Who Leslie Fisher, by the way, just can't stand this woman because she sees her as like a huge bully out there in the court. But apparently is like one of the sweetest people that you'll ever meet and is wildly admired and loved by most of the players that are on the tour. But she's a very short price also. So you're getting a short price on a shaky proposition. Not a good combination for making a profit long term in terms of gambling. So I actually, I considered this for like the briefest of moments, Louis. There's a girl from Greece named Maria Sakkari, who is just, has a stone athletic body. She's not a particularly tall girl, but was built. And she was playing some very good tennis, rose to prominence last year. And this year has just fallen apart. Kind of like this guy, Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's from Canada. Have you seen this guy? He seems like a real gentleman. Man, he made a meteoric rise last year. He won 60 matches on the season, which is a pretty large total in singles competition. You're thinking to do that, you're clearly going deep in tournaments, and even in some slams where you have a chance to go 7 rounds. Auger-Aliassime gets knocked out in the first round. I was reading the Barry America column yesterday from Action Sports, and the guy said, go with this guy because he's due to make some kind of a surge after playing lousy tennis most of the season. He's now 14-15 in singles matches on the year after winning 60 matches last year. What happens? Some of this you can attribute to injury. I don't know that you can in his case. Just a guy that, every now and then you'll see this, in any sport, but in tennis, you'll watch somebody like Zachary or Aliassime, Ogier Aliassime, just like all of a sudden run into a brick wall. They go from like largely on the ascent to nowhere. So I couldn't find anybody, but I considered for a brief second, like taking a sniff on, this is no sexual double entendre, on Maria Zachary. And then I thought, nah, she doesn't have the goods to do it. Knocked out in the first round, Lubie.
There you go.
First round, exit, bye, sayonara.
On your part.
You're out of here. Caroline Wozniacki making a comeback. I also believe that Virginia Wade is making a comeback.
Virginia
in this
Wade.
tournament. Yeah, everybody's making a comeback.
Virginia Wade.
I heard Bjorn Borg was, looking at qualifying to get into the U.S. Open this year. After, did he have to sell those trophies? What do you think? What happened here? Did Borg go broke?
No.
Is this a Boris Becker type of story? That ends in like very sad misfortune where the guy ends up in prison because he, squandered away all of his money. Boris Becker.
Borg. I don't think that's Borg. You haven't heard anything about Borg having money trouble. He quit after like 8 years. Like he wasn't as invested in his tennis prowess as the rest of the world was. He was never that guy.
He still hangs around the game though.
He liked tennis, but it wasn't his life. Like he wasn't McEnroe. Like he wasn't a fucking lunatic about it. Like,
all right. Makes sense.
He had other interests.
It's nice to see Chris Evert out there looking healthy.
Yeah, thank God.
That's always good. Who doesn't have a soft spot in their heart for Chris Evert?
She's great.
America's sweetheart. She's unbelievable, and enjoy her commentary. So nice to see her around the U.S. Open and just getting going here. As we have essentially 2 weeks of action that could culminate in some real fireworks in the end if we can get that Alcaraz Djokovic match that everybody would be anticipating. Couple of other things though, and I was trying to figure this out. I mean, what will be the story in this year's NFL? It's not too soon to start speculating about it because the regular season's a couple of weeks away. Now, we've had many conversations about the local team, and to tell you the truth, Lubie, I don't know that we've come to any definitive conclusion about the anticipation that we should have for the Miami Dolphins team. You are wildly optimistic. I suppose I should be also, but I'm not. I'm not pessimistic about it, but I really don't know that they're going to be that much better than they were the last 2 years when they were 9-8. How much better are they going to be? That would be the question. You have a division that you feel is the toughest in the league, the AFC East.
Talent, yeah.
You could make that case, I suppose. We made a very, very, heavy case last year that the AFC West was wow. I mean, can you believe these teams there, right? The Chiefs, the Broncos were going to be great. And, you had the Raiders that were supposed to be very, very good. You thought this was going to be the year that Carr had a giant breakthrough season. They had all kinds of talent there, a good situation in Las Vegas, as opposed to did they have an unfavorable situation in Oakland? Could they have stayed there? I know the stadium was a piece of shit.
Well, no, the problem is they weren't, I don't know if they weren't out the welcome, but they weren't getting funding. They weren't going to get a stadium. It just wasn't working there. It's just like the baseball team. It wasn't working there.
I remember going there, man. They have, and they universally had like some of the great fans that you would have in any sport, from any city. Yeah. The Oakland Raider fans were fantastic. I never forget that when we're driving through the parking lot and I'm looking and it looked like a Hell's Angels revival or reunion. And you were thinking, wow, are the Stones playing here? I mean, what's going on? Is this Altamont Springs? And there was an effigy hanging of Don Shula, and I look over and it was Don Shula. He was being hung like he was Mike Pence. Incredible. But they were supposed to be real good last year. They weren't. And the Chiefs, of course, are a team that you're looking at every year as long as they have Mahomes as a potential. Is it Andy Reid or is it Mahomes? What do you think?
The two of them together work really well.
Okay.
They are a perfect combination.
All right, so what are we looking at? I mean, were Were the Broncos that bad just because of Nathaniel Hackett last year? I mean, Hackett now with the Jets is their offensive coordinator. Sean Payton has opened the door of ugliness by taking some shots at Hackett, saying he was the worst coach. Well, implying that that was the worst coach team in the history of the National Football League. That is saying a lot.
I mean, the Urban team with the Jags was not any better.
Urban Meyer, yeah, no, he was horrendous.
I mean, that's within a year. Like the two of them, pretty rough.
Well, what is the fascination with guys that have a complete void of personality and making them announcers like Nick Saban? Nick is actually, I mean, he's. It's almost like having George Carlin in the booth by comparison to Urban Meyer, who has never said anything that is of any particular interest. What was he? I mean, did you listen to what he had to say? I was kind of turned off just by his presence.
I hate Saban, so I can't listen to him. Even though
I'm talking about Urban.
Urban. Oh no, he's rough. Both him and Saban, I've given a chance just because they were there. Saban at least will say stuff.
Yeah,
I just hate him. Urban, I hate him, and he says nothing. It's like what?
Nothing. Yeah. A-Rod is like Tim McCarver compared to this guy. Unbelievable. Or any analyst that you ever had any respect for. Did you like McCarver? Were you a McCarver fan? I was a McCarver fan.
I know, but a lot of people didn't. I mean, near the end, he got a little bit, but I like
got carried away with himself somewhat, did he not? Where you were doing that in-depth analysis. You would talk to some geologist about the condition of the dirt and found that it was more conducive to bunting down the third baseline than it would be if you just tried to bunt one back to the pitcher. And you're like, wow, you really went to that much detail in that. Oh, they got an impeachment working against Joe Biden. That's great. Way to go, Senator McCarthy. Way to pay attention to what's of radical importance. The guy's going to be out of office in a year anyway. It's not like he orchestrated an insurrection there and a revolution, tried to overthrow the government. May have a son that's a little bit suspect, but and maybe even took some money from the Ukrainians. What do you think? Is there money in a Biden bank account somewhere that originally was sitting there in the pocket of Volodymyr Zelensky?
You're talking to the wrong person. I feel like Biden's been in that biz way too long to let his dumbass son bring him down. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
All right, well, this was interesting. Last night, I mean, we had a good time last night with Dusty May. Dusty May, the head coach of the Florida Atlantic basketball team, that wrote one of the wonderful Cinderella stories, one of many that we had that was part of the fabric of the South Florida sports landscape last year. Probably, well, you would have to say, probably is, a word that we should just use in reverse. The most improbable of circumstances, in spite of the fact that, and even Dusty May said, he thought that his team should win 20 some odd games. He never saw them winning like 30 plus.
No.
During the course of the season. What an interesting situation, though, Lubie. And, very, very, I mean, we always talk about this money being the big motivator. Here's a situation where not only the players, not only the coach, but the players probably decided and, left money on the table, so to speak, by staying put at FAU, which almost everybody did. I think they bring back all but one player. To a team that was in the semifinal round of the NCAA tournament last year and uncharacteristically fell apart in the closing minutes against San Diego State, or they would have been in the championship game where you would have to think it would have been a bit of an overwhelming task to beat a smoking hot Connecticut team that distinguished itself by playing a vastly superior basketball during the course of the tournament. They had kind of a lucky break there because I don't know that they had the size to deal with that big stiff from Purdue.
Yeah.
Purdue gets knocked out in the opening round. Were they the number one overall seed? Purdue?
They were a number one seed. I don't know if they were the number one overall. I know they were.
By Fairleigh Dickinson?
The second or the third one.
They
were a 2 seed. They weren't one. It wasn't a 116.
Oh, okay, yeah, they were two. Right.
They were two. Yeah. So they were, but I think they might have been the best 2 seed. That might have been because Fairleigh Dickinson wasn't a team anyone thought had a shot. They were
zero chance. They pencil them in there. You're like, what are they doing in the tournament? Oh, it's good for the kids.
Yeah. They were like a strong. What's the one player of the year? they're
Harley
guys.
Dickinson. Yeah. What was the name of the coach again? I forgot. He was a real character.
I don't know.
And he ended up getting another job. He ended up moving on. Now you would have thought Dusty May, going all the way to the semifinals, and taking a team that did not look like it's stacked up as well from a talent standpoint with any of the real major powers in college basketball, had blended them perfectly together and had them playing such stellar ball that this guy's name would have been on every athletic director's list that was looking to enhance his chances and prospects of putting together a program that was going to be a long-term power in college basketball. Turned all of that down, and now you have to look at it's funny to see. We were in a restaurant yesterday doing a Mike Mayo lunchbox show that will air on Thursday. I think you'll enjoy it too with Dusty May. He was a very, very engaging character. Different sort of setting, and actually, it was much more. You would say down to earth than he had been in previous interviews that we had done with him, where he was mostly talking about the program in coach speak cliches. Even though you knew he was a good guy, you could kind of sense that. But he, was involved in the season, and he kind of, I don't know that you could say he let his hair down a little bit in this one, but we got to know him a little bit more intimately than we would have if we were just interviewing him, on the screen here and saying, "So, what about that freshman?"
Yep.
So it was good, but interesting about the basketball landscape. Wow, have things changed? My God. Because, the biggest mission now for some of these coaches is to keep, especially in these circumstances, how do you convince all of these kids that are, they're waving $500,000 a year in front of them at some other school, and how do you convince them to stay at FAU or maybe they can pay the guy $100,000? And then even more remarkable about it is that we were sitting in the small restaurant we were in, Talia's Tuscan Table, and that you're sitting in across from a bunch of kids that are making $100,000 as college players.
But Purdue
Openly.
was the second 1 seed to fall. That's crazy. I swore that they weren't an actual 1 seed. So I guess Purdue was a 1 seed, and they were the second 1 seed to lose, as we had a 1 seed a few years ago lose.
Okay, all right.
In the team.
That was in a 1 versus 16?
I guess, yeah, that's what Andy's saying. I mean, it makes sense. Fairleigh Dickinson, I don't see being anything but a 16, but I just didn't remember it getting I know it was.
See, I want to say that might have been a 2 versus 15. I think you might have.
Andy must have looked it up, I would presume.
Oh, he did? All right.
It took him.
Can we trust Andy these days? Yeah, of course.
5 minutes to write it after we talked about it. So I presume in that time he was looking it up.
Oh, he looked it up. Okay.
Yeah. That's
why would anybody that was paying attention to this show look anything up? We certainly don't. We go strictly with speculation and conjecture.
Yeah, I just don't. But again, it wasn't the first time it happened, so I guess that's why it was a big deal at the time. I remember it being a big deal, but I don't remember it being like this fucking huge thing. So, yeah, they were a 1 seed, and it did set up really well for FAU. But again, they eventually did have to face a Tennessee, a Kansas State. Like they faced.
They played some really good teams along the ride there, no doubt, and surprised virtually everybody. I did ask Dusty May if he had gotten that call from the Knicks. See about taking over there for Thibodeau, who looked very disheveled and beside himself throughout the entire season. I mean, is Thibodeau long for this planet with that sort of dour approach that he has? He looks like the most unhappy man you've ever seen, doesn't he, Thibodeau?
It's like how Van Gundy was, but at least Van Gundy was slight and you felt like he was in decent shape. It's Van Gundy times 10 because he's this big dude. He looks disheveled.
Just looks depressed, yeah.
At least after the game.
Looks like Bob Huggins did when he got popped there for that DUI when he was like 5 times over the legal limit.
He looks like the door-to-door vacuum salesman in the 50s that hasn't had a sale in like 3 months. And like the house is leveraged to the hilt and he hasn't told his wife and he's drinking in the bar, but then comes home and acts like everything's okay. Like he looks like he's on his last legs, like fucking every time. And it's like, dude, you made a lot of money. Like you probably don't have to do this.
It's death of a salesman. Yeah, you're right about that.
That's what it looks like.
I mean, he just looks like a schlep. He does. You're asking yourself if you didn't see him on the sideline there, coaching the New York Knicks, and you just ran into him, bumped into him on a subway station somewhere, you would think, "Hey, fuck you! Who the hell are you?" You know. Not like you're looking at Red Holtzman. Osman was kind of a schlepper also, but he was distinguished at least in that look. Anyway, you would have thought Dusty May could have written his own ticket just about anywhere. Apparently, I guess he got one offer, and he didn't mention this, but somebody else was saying Penn State.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, a lot of the times the offers depend on how interested a guy is. Like Dusty May, I think, made it sort of like. Also, in a lot of these circumstances, it's these runs they make with a bunch of seniors, and who knows if it's going to happen again. So you got to strike while the iron's hot. The fact that he knew he had a lot of sophomores and juniors,
yeah,
and I think he had an idea that they were going to come back. It's like, this isn't our last run. So I think he sort of let it be known. Look, I'm happy here right now, and that
they
probably had a
have
lot
an
to
average
do with it.
season though. Does he still get the benefit of
You don't know.
being able to write his own ticket somewhere else?
I don't. That's the thing. That's what a lot of these guys are risking. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at Iowa State, the head coach in football, Matt Campbell, a few years ago when they had Brees Hall and they had Purdy, they were winning every year, and people kept talking about his name as this Big Ten, maybe an NFL coach, and he kept turning down the job because he was happy there. But also, I think he's looking for like Michigan or Ohio State because he's a Midwest guy, and neither of those jobs was offered to him. They've now struggled the last 2 years, and now he's on the hot seat. So that's the thing. It's like, it's
What have you done for me lately? Sure.
It's a catch-22. Yeah, you want to stay for the perfect job, but you don't know. Like, yeah, it works out for a lot of these guys, but there are guys where you have that 1 year, and then you stay, and then you never have a year again.
Well, I guess, there was Greg Schiano when he was the defensive coordinator of the Canes, and the Canes were very good. And Schiano, you thought was going to be a hot property no matter when he entered the head coaching field. And he took the Rutgers job, and you thought, well, that seems like a lousy spot to be. Now, he did do some good there, and he managed to parlay that into a job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes.
But then he failed miserably there, and he's just sort of hovered since then.
But I remember the sentiment around town was, oh, wow, the guy could have stayed here another year as an assistant and written his own ticket. Maybe he ended up at Ohio State or something. They would have been such a hot commodity, but instead he took this job, and now, you figured he was destined to stagger around for a while, although he did have some early success and showed signs of life there with, there it is again, that phrase, with Rutgers. And you would have to say that he made out pretty well for himself, no? Back at Rutgers again.
He got an NFL job. It just was a disaster. He went back to Ohio State, was defensive coordinator, did a pretty good job there, and then got the Rutgers head coaching job. Dusty May, I think that team is loaded enough, and that schedule is weak enough where they'll be really impressive during the regular season. We'll see if they can have the postseason success again. I don't know. I think they're going to be a lot of fun this year. I think that.
What's John L's last name? Is it Davis?
I think it's John L. Davis. Is it Davis?
John L. Davis? I want to say Davis for some reason. He was there last night, and this was a kid that was making shot after shot. I mean, he carried him in a couple of games. You thought those guys were big? I thought they were, very slight by comparison.
No.
What I've perceived.
Big. He was
big time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, they were undersized. That was the thing about that team. They were just very savvy, and they made the right plays at the right time. Every single game except for that last fucking game.
Yeah.
The funny time is that was one of the rare games they were leading. Like they were finally leading.
They were in command.
Give it up. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah. How long do you let that bother you? Do you come back the following year and you never forget about those last couple of minutes against San Diego State? Or I would think more along the lines of the modern day kid doesn't seem to care as much about the past. Where, they seem more along the lines of having learned the lesson that was there years and years ago when Jim Morrison wrote, the line, learn to forget. And that turns out to be one of the keys in life, does it not? Learn to forget. I know you may not want to have that same experience again, but you can't let it embitter you, I don't think, and become a benchmark in everything that you do. I mean, you just have to move on and say, hey, we got this far last time. Let's go further. More so than sit there and wallow in despair that, oh, my God. Remember that when that was a thing where people would be critical, fans and media people would be critical if a guy just didn't look like he was overwhelmingly depressed after a loss. Like they're telling you how to feel. This is funny, too. I mean, I'm watching some of this coverage out of the corner of my eye. They're on Clearwater Beach. They're like two out to cockers with a little, raft out there, and that's it. Those are the only people on the beach. Them and a camera crew. Trying to make you think that something horrendous is going to happen there, which it may. And we, as we say, naturally our feelings and sympathies are very much with these people that have to deal with this. But it isn't happening yet. I mean, it's a premature evaluation, is it not? To have camera crews on the Clearwater Beach sitting there and you're looking at dead calm water and thinking, what lake is that? And it's the Atlantic, it's the Gulf Coast there. Not the Atlantic Ocean, but the Gulf Coast where this storm is brewing. We're going to come back, talk a little tennis with Harvey Fialkov and get some bitching in about the Yankees from Harvey's perspective. All you Yankee fans will enjoy it because he echoes the sentiments that all of you reiterate time and time again about how the Yankees... There's a sense of privilege there, is there not? That the Yankees should win the championship every year, and if they don't, there's something inherently wrong with the game.
100%.
And that they're what's that?
We used to make fun of him. We would be in the middle of the football season. No one would even give a shit about the baseball season. And we would do how long will it take Harvey to bring up the Yankees?
Right. And he does think in run-on sentences when he's talking about something that he's not particularly pleased about. All right, so he's going to join us in just a few minutes here on the Defo Show, and we'll be back with that in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Day 27. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
Mr. Pentangeli, were you a member of the Corleone family? Did you serve under Capo regime under Vito Corleone, also known as the Godfather?
I never knew no Godfather.
Mr. Pentangeli, you are contradicting a sworn statement you previously made to me and signed. I ask you again, sir. Here and now, under oath, were you at any time a member of a crime organization headed by Michael Corleone?
I don't know nothing about that. Oh, I was in the olive oil business with his father, but that was a long time ago, that's all.
We have a sworn affidavit. We have it. Your sworn affidavit that you murdered on the orders of Michael Corleone. Do you deny that confession?
Look, the FBI guys, they promised me a deal. So I made up a lot of stuff about Michael Corleone, because that's what they wanted. But it was all lies. Everything. And I kept saying, Michael Corleone did this, and Michael Corleone did that. So I said, yeah, sure.
It's now time for the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lubitz here. Lubie says that was an excerpt from Hal Steinbrenner's press conference talking about how he's going to handle Cashman and Boone in the upcoming off season, which figures to start sooner than later for the Yankees, 11 games out of the wild card spot. Speaking of wild cards, we welcome back to the show. This is a man that for many, many years, we couldn't wait for him to start fetching about the New York Yankees, and it became so popular with the audience. People would write us and say, "Hey, when are you going to have Harvey on? I need to hear somebody bitch about the New York Yankees." So we welcome the longtime sports writer for the Sun Sentinel, South Florida Sun Sentinel, and many other distinctions in terms of, and credits in terms of media appearances and performances. Harvey Fialkov joins us here on the show. Harvey, how are you, my friend?
They keep bringing me back. Hey, I thought I was going to have to listen to Godfather 1, 2, and 3, man. That was played the whole movie. What's going on here?
I think we use that as an intro to you almost every time that you come on. It's just an arbitrary selection, but Louie loves to play that thing, and it's pretty much what we're going to be hearing at the next the next several years at many of these trials. Yeah.
Well, I hope that Cashman and Boone both find a dead horse on their bed in a few weeks, because it's time to go, man. Steinbrenner needs to get some of his dad's, cojones and fire some people. It's just not working. Analytics hasn't worked. The new wave of doing things with strikeout of home runs doesn't work. The most injury-prone team in history. I mean, Judge is going to miss 70 games. He'll still hit 40 homers, but that's all they got, man. It's both it's been not only has been they're a horrible team, but they're a boring team. I mean, the Marlins are much more interesting. 1 to 9, they get hit. They got nice young pitchers, but Jeter did build a good farm system for pitching. Made some good trades in the off season, but he also saddled us with Stanton. So I don't forgive Jeter for giving us that big stiff who brushes his teeth and pulls a muscle. So we'll see, man. I'm pulled for the Marlins. I went there on my first day the other day. And it was a heartbreaker. 1 strike away, and David Robertson, one of my
former Yankee. Yes.
Yeah, he really caught the game up. Didn't help that their catcher pulled a Gary Sanchez and missed a high fastball, just went right in and out of his glove. Game over. Winning run scored, and that was all she wrote. But it was an exciting game. It's a beautiful ballpark, and so I'm done with my Yankees this year. I put on the game to watch Judge, and then I switch over and I watch a Challenger tennis tournament more than I watch my Yankees. Right?
Stanton below the Mendoza line too, or at least he was last week at one point. And you're thinking that's really sad that this guy can't hit 200, for the season at $30 million a year. And he does, crush the occasional line drive, and then on top of that, I mean, just can't run. You got a guy that's jogging to first base on balls that are ringing off the wall. It's really a disgrace.
A few weeks ago, trying to score from second, probably on a triple, and he's jogging it, and he gets thrown out the plate standing up. I mean,
by a mile.
It was humiliating. I mean, I hope the Little League World Series kids wasn't watching that debacle.
I was saying I would rather watch this guy Louis Lappy hit than see Stanton come to the plate, and that's saying a lot, right? I mean, the kid that hit the walk-off home run, he had like 5 home runs. As we said, the kid from California who's they finally dug up his birth certificate, and it really did. It had Fernando Valenzuela's name on it. It was from the same place in Mexico where Fernando got that birth certificate. Said he was 14 when he came to the big leagues. Pretty incredible. All right, let's get into some tennis, Harvey. There was already stuff happening at the U.S. Open round 1. My girl Maria Sakkari, what happened to her, man? She was making an ascent last year, and looked like she was going to be, in there in the mix constantly with the, the big girls, Swiatek, Sabalenka, and now Mukova. Coco Gauff is rising, but she's been getting eliminated like in the first round of all of these slams. I think that's the 3rd time this year that she was taken out in the first round. What happened? I mean, her and Auger Aliassime both have just absolutely gotten trounced this year. Felix Auger Aliassime. He got knocked out in the first round also.
Yeah, the Canadian kid has had a horrible summer, man. Last year, he was just on the way up, the top 10. Looked like he was going to start competing for slams. Just a classy kid, man.
Yeah.
I love the Canadians, by the way. They're also just so great in front of the camera. Good people. But this kid, I don't know, he just lost his mojo, man. Deep, tennis, one day you can play like Federer, the next day, you play like
Ira Winderman. Yeah.
Ira Winderman, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and also Sakri, the Greek woman, man, who I wouldn't want to fight, I'll tell you that. But
she's in great shape. I mean, how is she losing? It's incredible.
Reminds me of Amalie Mauresmo. Remember her?
Yeah.
Tournament director. But, very similar and incredible physique, like muscles. No, she is just going off the bubble, as you always say, off the boil. So, no, but there's so many other interesting stories. And Coco was pushed last night. How about Coco Gauff? Delray beat his own. I mean, she's always on the fringe of a Grand Slam championship, made the finals of French one year. But she wasn't just stagnating a little bit. The forehand was a weakness. Boom, Brad Gilbert joins the team about a month ago, and he wins a WT 500, which you won
Cincinnati, I believe.
And DC, and then she won Cincinnati 1,000, which is because now they use the men's system as well. 500 and 1,000 are the biggest tournaments, the Masters, besides the Slam. And she's playing with confidence. And last night she was in trouble. Met this German woman, a veteran who's been injured a lot, and she lost the first set, but she figured it out. She had to get more aggressive and to take away the net from her opponent. And she even got feisty, a little argument with the referee. She didn't like the way the girl was stalling when she was about to serve. You're supposed to serve. To serve.
Got like the pitch clock, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a real strict rule. It's very rarely enforced. But because Coco complained about it, Gilbert told her to, and then the umpire gave the girl a penalty point.
Laura Siegman. Yeah, she was. I mean, you talk about a slow pace, Harvey. You've been out there many times in the heat of the day there, and you're playing Joe Rose, and he's huffing and puffing, and then it takes him another half hour to get back there and serve. It can be annoying, but it was true. I mean, and the commentators didn't let go of this either. But there wasn't a single time it seemed that Siegman served before the shot. The serve clock had wound down past zero.
Right, and she gave her some leeway, and then finally they started complaining about it. Yeah, she kept going over the 30 seconds. But Joe Rose is not the example. He plays super.
He's quick, yeah.
You want me to sit down on changeovers, but I can play this guy Max. Oh my God! I mean, if we play on a bigger court, it takes an hour and a half to play one set. I mean, you could throw him the ball perfectly. The guys will let it roll to the fence, even if they catch it, so they could stall. He's one of those guys. But no, Joe's supersonic speed. But no, the Coco. The sad part is the draw. The Coco's going to have to play Iga Swiatek in the quarters. That would have been a wonderful final. They're the two best players right now, in my opinion, in the women's game. Whereas Iga has a very simple draw. Coco has Danielle Collins in the next round. She could beat anybody on any given day. Then she's got a lot of Russians on her side. The Rubikina, who won Wimbledon, and it was an Aussie finalist. Azarenka, who's a tough out. Svitolina, and then of course Sabalenka, another very big, strong Russian girl, waiting on the bottom of the draw at number 2. So I think the big quarterfinal that we're all looking forward to is Iga against Coco, and conversely for the men, Alcaraz and Sinner on the same side. So that'll be a quarterfinal, and then he also has to get past Medvedev and Joker, whereas Joker has a cakewalk to at least the quarters. I mean, he may have to deal with Tsitsipas, who I don't think he'll have any problem with. So, everyone's picking Alcaraz and Joker for the final. We got some good Americans in there, TFO and Shelton and Fritz. But I love the way Tommy Paul has played this year. The kid grew up in Deerfield Beach, even though he's from Jersey, trained here all his life. And he has given Alcaraz fits. He beat him twice, almost a third time. So, but my sleeper is Yubi Hurkacz. This kid, we saw him win the Miami Open. I'm sure you saw him that year, a few years ago. Big serve.
Yes.
Complete game. I really like Hurkacz's game. To me, he's my dark horse. If I was betting a long shot, it'd be him and Tommy Paul. But, of course, the chalk, Joker is just I think he's going to win another one. What do you think, Steve?
He's shown more vulnerability, especially against Alcaraz. He lost at Wimbledon, bloodbath. And then this match that they had a couple of weeks ago was just incredible.
Yeah.
The three-setter that went like 4 hours and looked like Alcaraz was given every opportunity to win that. And so, we've been contending here that, and some people would say this is too vague of a distinction, but we believe that Djokovic, if he is not the toughest out in all of sports, in terms of mental toughness, I don't know that there's anybody better over the years than Djokovic. You can never discount him. That's true of all of the greats in tennis, even when they're not on their best game. But I mean, you saw him. We were saying he looked like Diana Nyad in the first set against Alcaraz, coming out of the water in Key West. Just exhausted. I mean, he's got ice bags on his head. He looks like he's about to pass out. So to come back and win 2 tiebreakers, which he is the king of the tiebreaker, and that's obviously a very important consideration when you're talking about these kind of major championships. But I couldn't believe he came back and won that match. That was incredible.
Deep, I tell you, it's been the roughest summer in my tennis career as far as the heat. And July was the hottest in the world and Florida. So I've been hydrating out there in the second set. So Joker, who hasn't played much at all, nothing since Wimbledon until that Cincinnati tournament, he clearly, and every match he played was at night. And that Sunday was just grueling. It was like high 90s heat. Intensity was probably 105, 107. Yeah, and the fact that he goes to the bathroom break for 20 minutes after the second set. You're only allowed 1, and he takes 2. I don't know what he's doing in there, what he's shooting up, what kind of electrolytes he's taking, but it's working. I want to find out what he's taking. I'm drinking a gallon of pickle juice or what. But
I think he meant Lance Armstrong outside the men's room there.
Yeah,
that weird Egyptian doctor with him that had the little black bag that looked like something he borrowed off Victor Conti. That was great.
They should have tested him between the second and third set, Steve.
Yeah.
It's that deep. I got 2 rule changes that we got to do, man. Tennis. Number 1 is the slams. They have to do until the quarterfinals. It should be 2 out of 3, man. After that, go for 3 out of 5. If you saw that Cincy final, it was a 2 out of 3 set, 4 hours. Can you imagine if those guys go 7 hours? They're going to die out there. It's going to kill careers. I mean, everyone now in the first and second round are challenging the great players. Back in the day, Federer in those days, they just coasted to the quarterfinals. Everett and Navratilova coasted to the semifinals. I mean, now they're being tested right away. Everyone could rally forever. I think they really have to think about that rule change in the slams. And in baseball, I want to get rid of that softball 10th inning rule. Maybe make it the 12th or the 13th, but it's embarrassing. I don't think they can use that for the playoffs. That would be humiliating. But I don't like that 10th inning, put the guy in second base rule in the tie game. I don't know.
Is that in the postseason, that rule?
I think they got to get rid of it in the postseason. I'm almost sure they're not using it in the postseason.
I don't think they do in the postseason.
Imagine losing the playoffs on the 10th inning. Run on second, you bunt him to third, a ground ball scores him, and you lose the playoffs or the World Series. I'm almost sure they're getting rid of it. But the shot clock has been amazing. We went to that long game last Saturday, 4:00 game. Thrilling 3-2 game, a lot of action, great defensive plays, home runs, exciting ending. We were home from Miami to Broward by 7:15, 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh, not bad. All right.
Yeah.
My bar mitzvah took longer. That's.
I got a standing ovation of my bar mitzvah. The rabbi goes, "You got a bad case of Sundayitis. I haven't seen you in 2 years on Sundays. You go to the bowling alley, but you did a good job, David."
I was in shock because they phonetically spelled Haftorah that you had studied in your bar mitzvah lessons, which were an individual with the rabbi, which were tough to tolerate because in my case, I don't know about yours. My rabbi's breath was, not exactly something. I mean, you really had to, you had to open a door eventually, open a door to the room there, and just let out a scream. But then they switched the thing, and you had to read the Haftorah from the actual Torah, Which not only what was it, I mean, printed in agate type, but it was agate type in Hebrew.
Yep.
There was no way to decipher what the hell that was. Yeah, no vowels, nothing. Yeah,
No vowels. Yes.
no Shema Yisrael spelt out. I mean,
my tape recorder was was 200-pound tape recorder back in the day, an old fashioned one. I think I saw a Superman one, but the 8,000 that I got from my bar mitzvah, I blew it at Roosevelt Raceway. I blew the whole
I'm with you, man. I would have lip synced my Haftorah if I had known what they were going to do. That would have been great. Pull the Milli Vanilli.
Someone Abatello pulled back. Abatello pulled back from the 8-hole, and I blew it for.
He had the biggest biceps in all of sports. Carmine Abatello from yanking those horses.
Come on. I like Buddy Gilmore, and I like Buddy Gilmore.
All right, so who are your winners, Harvey? You've got Coco going all the way. Jim Sarni's going to love you. You must have talked to Sarni.
Man, yeah. Well, listen, I just think he's really ready. He's figuring it out on the court. Brad Gilbert, brilliant coach. You know, he got Roddick to number 1. He won his only slam with Gilbert, and then Agassi, like six out of his 8 slams with Brad Gilbert. He's just brilliant. He loves to scout out the opponents and probe their weaknesses, and he's just I think he's taking Coco all the way. He's finally going to win her first slam. Coco beat Iga, in Cincy, and that was a breakthrough because she had lost 7 in a row to her. He's the old Gerolaitis Connors. Nobody beat Coco 8 times in a row. And then on the men's side, I hate to say it, but I really think Djokovic is going to win another one. But my dark horse is Yubi Hurkacz, and watch out for Tommy Paul, man. He's playing like a beast. But you want to see an Alcaraz Joker rematch because it's like the best. It's like video tennis, man. Yeah. But whoever is in the best shape will win that one. But right now, I just can't see beating Novak, man. The guy is just he's relaxed. He hasn't played in the U.S. Open in 3 years because of the pandemic. He didn't get the shot. And a commentator said, "Oh, this guy hasn't won the U.S. Open in years. He hasn't played in years."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, COVID. Yeah.
It might have left down a significant fact. Yeah, for sure. Right. All right, Harvey. We have to run, but excellent stuff as always. Good to get back in touch with you.
Our friend Brian Schwartz says hello. He listens and watches us every day, and he says he's played with you for years. Yeah,
he loves it. Does he play tennis with you?
He used to. Yeah, they got injured, and then he has a yoga studio, and he's pretty busy playing there. But we go out. He's a huge Boston fan, so he gives me such grief when the Yankees suck or when the Celtics beat the Heat.
It's his year, Harvey. It's his year. For sure. All right, kiddo. Good talking to you. Thanks for joining us. Harvey Fialkov, ladies and gentlemen.
There on the court. When it gets a little cooler, deep, let's hit it around.
Yeah. I've been out of action for a while, so I need to get back into it.
Look, all right, baby.
All right, thanks, Harvey. Appreciate it. Harvey Fialkov. All right, we have to run. A lot of fun being with you today. Nick Saban, what will he be crying about tomorrow? Shouldn't that be the theme song of the Alabama Crimson Tide whenever Nick makes an entrance into a press conference? Crying all the time, crying all the time, crying all the time. Crying about what? Distractions if he names his starting quarterback. Wow. Against Middle Tennessee State. I tell you what, Nick. That might be a lot to overcome.
He's the worst. Golly.
What a douchebag. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. And also later on from Gilbert's, which is a great joint if you like hamburgers, man.
Yeah.
They have other stuff there.
It's funny because Shirley and I have been trying to get a good burger for a while. And either no one has it or whoever we get a burger from has been sort of And I was like, oh, thank God we're going to Gilbert's. It's like the king of all burgers.
Oh, no doubt about that. But I mean, not to diminish.
They have a bunch of other stuff.
Great other stuff that they have there, including like salads and things. I mean, it's not just a burger festival there. You can find something for virtually everybody. But they put a lot of, care and special interest into everything they prepare,
Yes. Well, the dessert.
It's not like anything is, okay, here you go. Just throw another burger on the grill. They really take pride in everything they serve there.
Do a great job.
Great job. Yeah. All right. So we'll be there later on, 12 o'clock. That Dusty May thing airs on Thursday at 12 o'clock on South Florida Live and the Let's Eat South Florida page. I think you'll enjoy that. And the food, once again, was off the chart there. Talia's Tuscan Table. Great catering joint if you're in Boca Raton. And I mean, people are always asking, hey, where can I get good catering? This would be my go-to place, would it not, Lubie? I wish I'd known about them years ago when I was throwing a lot of parties. Because they could have saved me, a lot of schlepping around. You could have gotten it all in one place, and they deliver. Fantastic. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, too, at 7 o'clock right here on South Florida Live, the next edition of the Defo Show. As we leave, you know that.
The time.
It's 8:50.
Let's go to eat a damn snack. Look what they done to my soul.